In a shocking turn of events, a racist cop has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for a terrifying confrontation in a supermarket. It all started as a regular day in a busy grocery store, but what unfolded next would leave the public stunned. In the midst of a routine shopping trip, this off-duty officer, fueled by prejudice, pulled out his gun and pointed it directly at an FBI agent. The situation could have escalated into something much worse, but what happened next changed everything. The cop's actions weren't just reckless, they were deeply rooted in bias. What made this incident even more disturbing was that the FBI agent was simply doing his job, completely unprovoked. As the tension in the store skyrocketed, what followed was a series of events that would unravel the officer's entire career and bring to light the serious issues of racism within law enforcement. But why did this officer feel entitled to act this way? What was the real story behind his decision to confront an FBI agent so aggressively? Stay tuned as we dive into the details of this high-stakes situation and the investigation that led to the officer's sentencing. The consequences of this moment would go far beyond the supermarket aisle. To understand how things spiraled so quickly, we need to go back to the officer's background. Officer Daniel Harris had been with the police department for over a decade. On the surface, he seemed like just another officer doing his job. But behind the badge, there were troubling signs that many chose to ignore. Harris had been known for his biased views and racist remarks over the years. Colleagues had whispered about his attitude, but nothing ever seemed to come of it. That day in the supermarket, it wasn't just a random encounter. Harris had been having a rough few months, his personal life was in turmoil, and he felt the pressure of his job weighing heavily on him. When he saw the FBI agent, a black man, browsing the aisles, something inside him snapped. Without any provocation, Harris pulled out his gun and pointed it at the agent. It wasn't just a threat, it was a manifestation of the deep-seated racism that had been brewing inside him for years. The FBI agent, luckily, stayed calm. He didn't draw his weapon, but instead tried to de-escalate the situation. But the tension in the store was palpable. People froze, unsure of what would happen next. As the standoff unfolded, something even darker loomed on the horizon. Harris' past was about to catch up with him in a way he never expected. As Harris stood there with his gun raised, the grocery store fell into a tense silence. The air was thick with fear. Customers ducked behind shelves, unsure if they were about to witness something horrifying. The FBI agent, who had already identified himself in the split second that Harris pulled the gun, remained remarkably composed. His experience in high-pressure situations kicked in, but his mind raced. Why was this cop doing this? Why now? From the other side of the store, a young woman named Emily had been quietly picking out produce when the scene unfolded before her eyes. She froze, heart pounding in her chest. She had always looked up to law enforcement officers as protectors, but this incident shattered everything she thought she knew. She knew the officer. He was a regular in the neighborhood, and his face had always been friendly. But now, standing there with a gun, he seemed like a different person entirely. Was this who he really was? As the confrontation escalated, Harris' grip tightened on his weapon. The FBI agent slowly moved his hands into plain sight, trying to keep the situation from spiraling out of control. But it wasn't just the agent's life at risk. The community, too, was caught in the crossfire. Emily and others in the store had no idea what would happen next. Would the officer fire the gun, or would the agent manage to talk him down? At that moment, Harris wasn't just facing an FBI agent. He was facing a reckoning with everything he had hidden beneath the surface. But the tension was far from over. The agent wasn't the only one with a story to tell. Secrets from Harris' past were about to be exposed, and they would reveal a far more dangerous side of the officer than anyone had ever imagined. The standoff continued, the seconds stretching into what felt like hours. Harris' eyes darted around the store, searching for an escape, but the reality was setting in. He had nowhere to go. The gun in his hand seemed heavier with every passing moment. His breath came in ragged bursts, and the weight of what he had done, pulling a weapon on an FBI agent in front of witnesses, began to sink in. But it wasn't just the immediate danger that rattled him. It was the fear that everything he had hidden for years was about to come to light. The FBI agent, still maintaining his calm demeanor, subtly reached for his radio, hoping to send out a silent alert to other officers nearby. But there was no time for backup. He knew this had to end soon, one way or another. Every move he made was calculated to avoid escalating things further, but Harris seemed to be growing more unpredictable. It was clear now that this wasn't just about a simple confrontation. It was something personal. The officer was acting out of deep-rooted anger, and the FBI agent realized the stakes were higher than he initially thought. Meanwhile, Emily, the young woman who had witnessed the whole scene, stood frozen in the aisle. She couldn't stop watching, though every instinct told her to run. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her entire world seemed to be turned upside down. The man she once thought of as a protector was now a threat. She could sense the change in the atmosphere. The air was charged with tension, and every second felt like it could tip into chaos. The supermarket, once a place of routine, had turned into a volatile battleground, and no one knew how it would end. Would the FBI agent successfully disarm the situation? Would Harris snap and make a deadly decision? As the seconds ticked by, the intensity mounted, and it seemed like the world was holding its breath. Every eye in the store was on Harris, and every one of them was waiting for the next move. Just as it seemed like the standoff was about to reach a breaking point, an unexpected sound echoed through the store, the sharp ring of a phone. The noise came from one of the aisles, and it startled everyone. For a split second, Harris's grip loosened on his gun. The momentary distraction wasn't enough to end the tension, but it was enough for the FBI agent to see an opening. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his every instinct telling him to act fast before Harris made the first move. But before he could make a move, something even more dangerous happened. Suddenly, there was a new voice in the store, and it was a voice that no one had expected. A woman in her late 30s walked into the scene with alarming confidence. She wasn't part of the chaos. It wasn't clear who she was or how she'd entered unnoticed. But what was clear was that she wasn't afraid. The woman, dressed in business attire, stepped forward calmly, her gaze fixed on Harris, who now looked even more rattled. She didn't flinch when she saw the gun. In fact, she seemed oddly composed, as if she had expected this moment all along. The presence of this new figure changed the entire dynamic. The tension in the room skyrocketed, and for the first time, Harris appeared unsure of himself. His face twisted with confusion, but he couldn't make sense of what was happening. Who was this woman, and why had she shown up now? Was she a part of some larger plan? The FBI agent, sensing the shift, knew this could either be the break they needed, or it could send everything spiraling out of control. As the woman approached, Emily, the young witness, couldn't shake the feeling that things were only getting worse. Her stomach churned as she watched this stranger interact with Harris in a way that seemed almost too familiar. Had the officer been set up? Was there more to the story than anyone realized? The answer seemed just out of reach, but the stakes were higher than ever. Every new second felt like it could bring the story to an explosive climax, one that no one in that store was prepared for. As the mysterious woman stepped closer to Harris, the room seemed to freeze in place. Everyone watched, their breath caught in their throats, unsure of what would happen next. Harris, his eyes wide with uncertainty, slowly lowered his gun, unsure if he should react to her presence or remain focused on the FBI agent. The woman's gaze locked onto his, unflinching. With a calm but firm voice, she spoke, "Daniel, it's over. You don't have to do this." Harris's hand trembled as he stared at her. For a moment, it seemed like his resolve might break, but instead, a cold anger flickered in his eyes. "How did you?" he started, but the woman cut him off with a sharp, almost bitter laugh. "I've been watching you for a long time, Daniel. All those incidents, it's all been leading to this. You think this is just about an FBI agent? Think again." The tension in the store grew unbearable. Emily, still hiding behind a shelf, couldn't believe what she was hearing. The woman's words hinted at a deeper connection with Harris, something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Was this a setup? Had the officer been manipulated? The unexpected twist was dizzying, leaving everyone wondering what had been going on behind the scenes all along. Before anyone could react, the woman pulled out a small device from her bag and pressed a button. Suddenly, the flashing lights of squad cars could be seen through the store windows. Backup had arrived, but not in the way anyone expected. It was clear now that the woman wasn't just a bystander. She was orchestrating everything from the shadows. The FBI agent, recognizing the shift, moved swiftly. He knew the woman wasn't there to negotiate. She was there to ensure Harris' downfall. As the tension hit its peak, he finally made his move. With precise skill, he managed to wrestle the gun from Harris' hand, pushing him to the ground. But just when it seemed like the conflict was over, Harris' last words sent a chill down everyone's spine. "You don't understand. She's one of us," he muttered before being handcuffed. The woman's face remained emotionless, but something flickered in her eyes, something cold, calculating. "We'll see about that," she said, turning and disappearing into the chaos of the arriving police officers. Emily watched the whole thing unfold, her mind racing. What had just happened? Who was this woman? And what did Harris mean by one of us? The story wasn't over. The real mystery was just beginning, and the truth behind Harris' actions, and the woman's role in it, was darker than anyone could have imagined. The supermarket had been a battleground, but the war was far from over.